Hi guys, it's ArchieLuxury. Guys, I want to talk to you about DavidSW. DavidSW. Guys, if you are in America, if you are looking for a Rolex watch of your dreams, in fact, if you're looking for a contemporary modern wristwatch, I strongly advise you to look at DavidSW. Guys, don't play the dealer games. Don't bring in chocolates or Krispy Kremes for your dealer hoping to get a Rolex at retail. It's futile. Please, guys, save your dignity. Keep some pride. Go to DavidSW. I would highly recommend DavidSW. If you're in America and you're looking for a watch, go to DavidSW. DavidSW. Hi guys, it's ArchieLuxury on the Pluta channel. Today, guys, I'm doing an interesting review. And this is a review for a brand that I'd seen them. Now that the brand name is mentioned, I have seen them, but I never really paid much attention to them. Paul, I would like you to talk about the second oldest watch brand, Favre-Leuba watches, and their unique in-house specialty movements. And this is from Viec. So, I got to be honest with you. I started scratching my head and thinking, what the hell is this? And then I did a bit of research, and yes, I have seen these watches before. Favre-Leuba. It's F-A-V-R-E, Feyer-Luba, L-E-U-B-A. Switzerland's little-known second oldest watch brand. It's got a fascinating history that intersects with Beauvais and Jaeger-LeCoultre, and let's just have a look at this here. So basically, Favre-Leuba, this brand itself, it's basically it's a brand that died during the quartz crisis of the 70s. Many brands were gobbled up by conglomerates. Some companies transformed into just a skeleton of fine watchmakers. That's what happened to Favre-Leuba. Now, this is an article I'm reading which is called Escapement. I'll put a link down below. So this article here, that's what happened to Favre-Leuba. It's a Swiss manufacturer still in existence to this day, headquarters in Zug, Switzerland. Zug is also referred to as Crypto Valley. Favre-Leuba traces its roots back to 1737, making it the second oldest watch brand in Switzerland after Blancpain, which goes back to 1735. It was founded by Abraham Faber in Lelucu, Switzerland, who eventually appointed the master watchmaker of Lecoux. In 1792, Abraham's son started a watch company, A. Faber and Fils. So basically, the story goes, Abraham Jr. was obsessed with improving the technology in his watches. And by 1815, Faber clan had joined forces with Auguste Luba, a guy from a watchmaking family, which they formed Favre-Leuba in the early 1800s. The Favre-Lubas, led by Fritz Favre, traveled around the world together, taking their pocket watches to national and international exhibitions, including the Universal Exhibition in London, 1851, the New York Fair, 1853, raking up awards and accolades along the way. The company, in 1896, the brand moved its headquarters from Le Locle to Geneva. The brand continued to see global success and growth throughout the early part of the 20th century. Favre-Leuba continued to produce chronographs of ebosh movements through the 60s, typically using value movements and sometimes Landeron. Okie dokie. It says here, after Longines produced its what is likely the first watch chronograph in 1913, Favre-Leuba jumped in, creating the first mono-pusher chronograph by 1925. All chronographs were mono-pushers until Breitling introduced the two-button system in 1934. Interesting. Favre-Leuba Beauvais in 1948. This is just after World War II. World War II ended in 1945. Favre-Leuba purchased the name and production facilities of Beauvais. Favre-Leuba soon gave up the Beauvais brand in 1950 and began using Beauvais' former plant to exclusively produce Favre-Leuba branded watches. Favre-Leuba eventually sold Beauvais manufacturing in Fleur in 1966, and Parmigiani Fleurier later purchased the Beauvais name in 1989, which led to the rebirth of that brand to the ultra luxury status. For 2 years, from 1948 to 1950, Favre-Leuba produced Favre-Leuba Beauvais watches and mostly chronographs. Okay, interesting. Now, they also, Favre-Leuba was cranking out co-branded Favre-Leuba Beauvais watches in relatively large numbers. These chronographs featured ebosh movements from value, caliber 77 and caliber 84, or Landeron, caliber 47, 48, 51, 57, 59, 80, and 81. As you can imagine, not many of these exist. The Landerons were a bit cheaper to produce at the time. When Favre-Leuba first produced Beauvais, the stylized Beauvais logo was replaced with a simple Beauvais. Okie dokie. So there we go. That's a very interesting brand. Now, what the hell happened to this brand? So they were in bed with some amazing brands there. Beauvais, which now of course is the luxury brand. They also had a thing. They were also in bed with J.J. Lecoultre. Jaeger LeCoultre. So it's quite a interesting that in 1960, Favre-Leuba introduced the Water Deep, the brand's first dive watch. It had a large luminous indices, rotating bezel, and it used using a rotating bezel that sat under the glass and rotating using only a rotor at 2 o'clock. Okie dokie. Faber, the result, they also introduced a successful dive watch called the Biv O Nork. Favre-Leuba worked to combine two technologies, water resistance and aneroid barometer, to create a dive watch that could tell the wearer its depth underwater. The result was the Baffy. First released in 1968, the first mechanical watch that indicated dive time as well as dive depth. Well, that's pretty damn amazing. By the 60s, the 8th generation of the Favre family owned the company and sat on the board, but the challenges brought by the quartz crisis after the first quartz movement was introduced in 1969 greatly increased the pressure on the 200-year-old brand. In 1965, Favre-Leuba joined forces with ArchieLuxury under the Sapphire Group. The Sapphire Group had been the holding company of ArchieLuxury and Vacheron Constantin from 1937 to 1965, when Vacheron bought back its proportion of the business to become an independent company. But the quartz crisis spelled trouble for Favre JLC mashup, and Sapphire changed hands multiple times over the coming decades, from VDO automobiles to Benidorm and finally to LVMH. The story gets a bit happier for ArchieLuxury, eventually became part of Richemont, which they also own Vacheron as well, with bringing the long-lost friends back under the same holding company roof. Meanwhile, Favre-Leuba kind of fell to the wayside until it was purchased by Titan, part of a multinational Indian conglomerate, Tata. In 2016, Favre-Leuba relaunched with its Raider and Chief collections, the two collections that still make up its modern catalog. The brand would make its triumphant return to Baselworld in 2017, drawing on cues from the 60s and 70s. The company still prides itself on technology, just as they did back in 1700s. Baselworld 2017 releases included a new Bio Nuvac under the Radier collection, the only watch with the ability to measure altitude up to 9,000 meters mechanically. The goal was to create a watch for Mount Everest, which measures 8,848 meters. Interesting. I gotta tell you, this is a brand I never realized was in existence. It's incredible history. Okie dokie. Now, these watches here, you can buy some of the chronographs generally use Valjoux movements, while the time-only pieces use ETA. They're typically pretty large, measuring 42 and above, cushion-style case. Interesting. So now this article here says that, by the way, the modern Favre-Leuba isn't the only brand that traces its roots back to Abraham Fabre of 1700s, Lecoultre, Switzerland. A modern A. Favre and Fils was launched by Laurent Favre, 10th generation Favre. This A. Favre and Fils is creating the first handcrafted timepiece with built-in cryptocurrency, cold wallet, and state. What the fuck? Now basically, so this is. Now the thing is, what's interesting to talk about the modern Favre, it really has little in common with the Favre-Leuba of the 20th century. Well, this is according to this article. I don't know. It's what an interesting brand. What an interesting brand. And so many of these brands are Phoenix brands. They're rebuilt from the ashes. I'm not going to cast judgment on this brand because I haven't actually handled. I'd love to handle one of their watches. What an amazing brand. I've seen them, like they're vintage. They kind of were sort of, you know, there was a lot of mid-tier shit, 60s, you know, that was out there. I remember my dad had a, what the hell, Technos. There was a lot of brand, but Favre-Leuba, they seemed to be a bit more than a Technos. They had some real substance. So I gotta tell you, I honestly can't cast judgment until I've played with one. Have any of you guys out there heard of the brand? Have you experienced any of these watches? Let me know. I'm not gonna call it out unless I've really seen it or experienced the brand. And does it need to be owned by a snooty Swiss conglomerate? What's wrong with it being owned by some resourceful Indians? Well, let's face it, Tata Group, they own Jaguar, Land Rover, and those are companies the British could never make sense out of. So, interesting. Guys, have you heard of this brand? Let me know. I'd love to hear your point of view. I'm ArchieLuxury, and I will see you in the next one. Like, subscribe, tell your friends. Don't be afraid to put some comments. And remember, guys, paid reviews keep me full-time on YouTube. Without the paid reviews, I can't survive. Don't forget Patreon. Patreon allows you to sponsor me for as little as $1 a month, keeping me on YouTube. Hi guys, ArchieLuxury, and today guys, I'm very proud to introduce a new sponsor of the ArchieLuxury and the Paul Pluta channels. Who am I talking about? WhatShopping.com, WhatShopping.com, WhatShopping.com. Check them out, guys. Jump online, check out WhatShopping.com. These guys here have been in business since 2017. Worldwide shipping and distribution. Over 10,000 wristwatches in inventory. Stock in hand, and 90 plus different brands, new and pre-owned. Now, the good thing about WhatShopping.com, trusted by over 4,000 reviews on Chrono24 and Trustpilot. Your one-stop shop to buy any watch your heart desires. Please, guys, check out WhatShopping.com, WhatShopping.com, WhatShopping.com. I'm ArchieLuxury, and check out WhatShopping.com. Hey guys, ArchieLuxury on the YouTube sensation, the Paul Pluta channel. Guys, I need you to help me out, guys. I can't survive on Google Ads alone. I need you to request a paid review. $50 US, look down in the description. $50 US, I will review your collection. I'll tell you what I think of it, and I'll give you some pointers. The other thing is, guys, you can sponsor me on Patreon. Patreon allows you to pay a couple bucks a month, $1, $2, $5, whatever you want, and it keeps me going on YouTube because, guys, I'm in a niche. Nobody can make money out of the views I get. The views are crap because it's a small specialized area, and I don't talk about garbage for the sake of views. Guys, sponsor me on Patreon. Look down below, and I will see you in the next one.